Hi, everybody, and welcome to the May meeting of the Bike Walk Commission. Um, I understand that we have changed stuff a little bit since the last time I was on. I was gone last month, thanks to Emily for covering for me and leading last month's meeting. We apparently there's new policy, and we're no longer giving panelist links to anybody that's not a commissioner. Um, so I think, oh yeah, good. Okay, we have a few members of the public trickling in. Um, Thanks to the members of the public who have attended. The first thing on our agenda is public comment. So I will turn it over to members of the public who'd like to give comment. Um, if you, I, because it looks like we have a few people, I'll ask people to limit their comments to 3 minutes apiece. Um, but as the meeting progresses, if it looks like there's time and it's relevant, I may allow some members of the public to chime in later in the meeting, but it's not guaranteed. That'll be at the discretion of me and other people who are trying to move the meeting along. So first of all, we do have a hand up from Jim Cooper. I'll turn it over to Jim. Thanks for joining.
Sure. Can you hear me, Tanner?
You're coming through loud and clear.
Thank you. Hi. Nice meeting the other day on a bike ride, and I was impressed. I didn't know of the commission and its activities, but I'm just a quick history. I'm a rower, Norwalk River Rowing founding member, and I founded a safety consortium for the 4 clubs that are on our river. We have bi-yearly meetings. I'm involved with safety on our river, and just like to be involved in stuff like that. Do a lot of cycling, especially around Norwalk. I'm 70. So the things that are happening in Norwalk are always real positive, but there's always some concerns, and I'd like to be able to contribute. One of the things that I noted, there's a walkway. It's called the Esplanade by the Norwalk River Rowing Association. It starts at Wall Street and moves forward. There's a little stretch right behind one of the condos that's not finished at all, and it's dangerous. And our athletes travel there all the time, and somebody's going to break their ankle. And I just wondered, could that ever get paved? Could that ever get fixed so it extends forward from the existing walkway? It'll go from Danbury to the beach, I think, some year, but that's my little comment there, and I wonder if you know anything about that.
Hey Tanner, I can take this one.
Yeah, go ahead, Kyle.
Hey Jim, my name's Kyle Benjamin. I work for the city in our traffic department. So that Esplanade is part of the Harbor Loop Trail, so it's part of our responsibility. Um, the the portion you're just talking about, I'm not sure off the top of my head. Maybe as Tanner's moving around the map, you can bring that down. I'd have to look into it to get back to you. What I can tell you though is in a little bit, I'm going to explain the clicking request system. In that system, you can highlight this issue because we honestly haven't heard of it. And then once we have a ticket in, we can start moving it forward. Parts of the trail are under private control, other parts are under public control. So I'm not 100% sure which portion you're talking about. And I honestly don't know which portions we control and don't control, but we can definitely get back to you if we put in a customer service ticket, which I'll show you how to do later in this call.
Great. It's right below Riverway condos. There's Norwalk River Rowing, Riverway condos, some other condo, and that's this stretch of 100 yards, 200 yards worth of dangerous routes and unpaved and stuff.
Got it.
It's keep going. It's where the grass is, a little farther south.
Yeah.
Yep. Nope. In between the 2 condos. There you go. Right in there. Yep. That's the spot right there.
So Jim, that might also be as new developments come in, we have them do their portions. So that might be something like that. We might have an easement there. I don't want to speculate though, because I don't know the exact information, but I'll show you how to put in a ticket and we can definitely take a look into that and get an answer to you in the future.
We have hundreds of athletes, and part of their rowing training involves them to go take a run, and we try to keep them off the road so they stay on that path. But that's a dangerous little spot there. So okay, I'll follow through with that. It's been like that for years, and kids are agile. But if in the future if it was like, wow, yeah, let's get this thing fixed, that would be great.
No, for sure. Definitely a goal of our department is to finish the Harbor Loop Trail, one of the many projects we're focused on. So thank you.
I can add to that. I do seem to recall that the redevelopment agency put forth at least like a concept design for this section, specifically the one on the property of 130 East Avenue that we're looking at right here, as well as 148 East Avenue, if my memory serves me right. Is 148 that? Oh, that's the big medical building down here. So that's different. But yes, I do remember concretely 130 East Avenue right here. The redevelopment agency was this was maybe a year or two ago. Was at least discussing publicly the idea of working on this section. I believe it's tough because there's a need for a retaining wall. Again, don't take any of these comments to the bank, but I'm pretty confident that I recall being in a public meeting of the redevelopment agency where they were working on this. I think that they are still the ones taking point, unless Kyle can say otherwise. But it sounds like
No, so the redevelopment is taking point. I think we're looking for, we both need an easement and money. So I think it's still in a high level concept phase rather than a detailed design phase, which would then become a TMP discussion item. So I think it's more
Gotcha.
of a higher level redevelopment thing right now.
Well, I welcome either of you guys to take a walk down there sometime and just look at my concerns, and you might come away and go, yeah, he's not wrong.
Yeah, no, I've walked that section before, and I can vouch that you are not wrong. It definitely needs to be addressed. It's just a
Tanner,
question
what
of
was
how
the
to.
address on that? 130?
130 East Avenue.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, it looks like here on the redevelopment agency's website, they have recordings of those meetings that I'm remembering. So yeah, Kyle would be the expert on exactly how the city's planning to deal with that. But I can say for sure that like it's on the city's radar, and at least multiple agencies within the city have it on their list.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and Jim, I'm not telling you to put in a ticket just to put in a ticket. It's also as we get more tickets of more things, it allows us to help prioritize and just show the city council, you know, we have a lot of tickets on this item. We'd like to move it forward to, you know, help the residents and citizens. So it definitely helps us just as much as it helps you. So
How can I get a ticket? How could I be
so
instructed?
I'll show it later in this meeting. You can also
Okay.
just go to the website and call customer service, but I will show you how to do it later in this meeting.
Okay. Thank you.
After public comment. Yep.
Great, Jim. Thanks for bringing that up, highlighting that issue on East Ave and on the river. We have another hand up, Eric Vitaglione. Eric, go ahead.
Hey, Tanner, can you hear me?
Yes, you're coming through.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I walk that trail on a frequent basis as well. I know exactly what Jim's talking about. It's basically got to hop a bunch of routes. It's definitely not bike friendly for sure. But I just have a question for Jim. Which rowing group are you with? I know there's like 3 on the river. I'm just not sure which one's yours.
Thank you. There's can you hear me still?
Of
Yes.
course. Yeah.
Yeah. There's 4 clubs on the river, actually. Norwalk River Rowing is who I'm affiliated with, and we're on the east side.
I see where you're at, right by ONG. I got you.
Yeah, there you go. And Fairfield University rows out of our site. So there's actually two clubs in that one building. So that's who I'm involved with. Thank you.
Gotcha. Well, thank you. Nice to meet you. Yeah, that was
Eric,
basically
anything
it.
else from you?
Nope. Thank you.
Alrighty. Alrighty, any other members of the public that would like to make public comment? Would like to address the commission? Even if you just want to introduce yourself, like I said, I try and keep this as interactive as I can within the constraints. Alrighty, well, thanks, Jim and Eric, for dropping by and for addressing the commission. I'm going to close public comment and move on to our next agenda item, which is the 2024 event calendar that has been added to the agenda by Nick Pepis. Nick, take it away.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Would you mind pulling up that email I sent out with a proposal for the events list.
Yes.
Sent out.
Is it this one? Oh, I'm not sharing, sorry. Is it this one?
Yep, that's the one.
Great.
Yeah, so obviously this is now out of date, considering number 2 has been postponed. But has anyone not gotten the chance to take a look at this list that I sent out? I'm gonna assume that means that everyone has.
I'll admit I have only looked at it in a cursory way until now.
Okay. Well, yeah, this is kind of what I was proposing, what our events calendar for the year would look like. And when I sent it out, it was just kind of me thinking of everything that we'd spoken about or I'd spoken about. And it was based off of the events that we did last year, which I also compiled in an email that we spoke to last month. So I based this off of that. I'd like to kind of start a conversation or discussion as to like if we want to add to this or take away from this. And when you'd asked me about it, Tanner, I actually remembered that we had some events related goals in our strategic plan. And if we wanted to essentially hit all our goals in our strategic plan, this list actually wouldn't hit all those goals. So one of the goals was provide bike valet services at 3 events. There's actually, oh yeah, there it is. There's actually 5 events on that list I'd sent out that I'd identified for bike valet. But there's only 3 events that I'd identified for tabling. And there is nothing on there for a co-hosting event with a community group that represents an underrepresented population. So I'm thinking maybe take out 2 of those bike valet events, add the co-hosting event, and maybe add 2 more tabling events.
Well, so I think technically, and I feel like it's not, co-hosting is pretty, I'm trying to find the right word here. I feel like by providing bike valet services at these events, we are participating in the events, and that should count. And especially the NICE Festival represents an underrepresented population. It's all about, you know, international presence in Norwalk. So I feel like, but my initial reaction from this list was like, that's a lot of events, and my, you know, of getting volunteers and people to participate and coordinating all this just after doing that for Earth Day, I feel like this is a big commitment for all these events. And you're saying that this wouldn't even meet our goals that we set out?
So I'd like to comment on that. First of all, Emily, thank you very much for your participation in Earth Day. I think, though, that you were much more involved with Earth Day than we're talking about when we're talking about, you know, these 5 or even these 3, right? You were kind of involved in the steering committee of the whole event. For something like the NICE Festival, we're talking about providing bike valet. I've discussed one-on-one with Nick, potentially having him visit a couple of their steering committee meetings to help them with their walking and biking plans. But mostly this would, my sense is that these events would all be a lot less work than what you put in for Earth Day. With the exception of this, which I think our goal in adding this one, and Christine can correct me if I'm wrong, because Christine, this is the one that you own, but our goal with this was explicitly to make an event happen that otherwise wouldn't happen. It's not just to join an event like the NICE Festival that's going to happen anyway, but to create an event alongside a group that represents an underrepresented community and make it happen. But I think that's a little bit out of scope. Nick, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that this, because you don't own this one, I don't imagine that that's in scope for what you're describing.
Yeah, my intent for this agenda item isn't necessarily to like hammer down that specific event, but more so like maybe put a placeholder date in the list as a target for like, let's have this date be our co-host with a community group that represents an underrepresented population. And then some other time we can figure out what that actually looks like.
Yeah, Christine, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So, I like what Emily said. So when I've thought about this goal, ideally, yeah, it would be an event, but I think one of our goals here was also to kind of, looking at the League of American Bicyclists, like, application and being cognizant of this, right? So I think if we can maybe, couch this by, embedding it in these events, like, so Emily mentioned the NICE Festival. Yes, and I'd like to elaborate, the Norwalk National Night Out is specifically for underrepresented population.
I don't know
That's,
if I agree with that. I think it's specifically for the police.
yeah, the police to provide, if you look at it online, I mean, it's literally to prevent, it's a prevention. It's like to community policing, right? So they're in South Norwalk. That's where the event is. And that was the
Yeah.
purpose of National Night Out, is to reduce to partner with the police and the community. So
Okay,
that's my
I think
take on it. but
I think we're a little bit far afield from Nick's goal in putting this on the agenda, which was let's nail down the places that we're going to do bike valet and that we're going to table. Is that right, Nick?
That's probably going to be the bulk of our events, but I'd like to nail down dates for like basically our 2024 events at all. So like
Yeah,
if you want to just set a placeholder date for anything that I didn't cover in here that is in our goals, then I would also like to do that.
Well, I think Christine's point about National Night Out is a good one. That's the biggest one that I'm noticing that's missing from this list.
It is on there.
That's number
Yeah.
7.
It's number
Oh,
7.
sorry, you're right. I missed it.
And I'm sorry, Tanner, I agree with Emily's comment. I mean, it is just
This is-
tabling. I don't know if we really need to be at Blooming Metric because it's in Westport. I just think Emily's right. Like, it's a commitment. This is a wonderful list. I did read it. That's all I'm gonna say. So I agree with Emily.
And
Wait,
I
is
just want to
Blooming Metric
quickly,
on here? I don't see it.
so I just want to quickly add, Tanner, while I was a little more involved in Earth Day, I tabled and I volunteered for ballet, and we still struggled filling all those seats. So I think, while Nick did a great job managing it, and he took the lead on it, I feel strongly that I would prefer to remove 1 or 2 events from this list. But I would also defer to Nick to hear his opinion, and it sounds like he's looking for our opinions on this as well.
Yeah, I have nothing against removing anything from the list. That's kind of what I'm trying to accomplish here. Like I said, our goals only only allotted for 3 bike valet service events, or rather, that was our goal was 3, right? I've got 5 on here, so you can totally take 2 out and replace them with something else, or we can also just like narrow this down more. But then we kind of get into the territory of, are we still going to hit our goals if we narrow it down too much?
So another thought that I have here, when we do bike valet, we can also table, right? Like we did at Earth Day. I think that it works pretty well to do both at the same time. Emily, you mentioned that it was hard to fill all the slots, but when we created those slots, we were looking for 2 people every hour, right? And we tried to get 2 different people, or at least 1 new person every hour. But what I noticed there, and I guess we're getting a little bit into the realm of retrospective on Earth Day, but that's something that I did ask to be put on the agenda that didn't end up there, but I think this is a good time to do it. It seemed like we ended up having a lot of people kind of hanging out at the table, and thus had plenty of manpower at the bike valet table. Did it not seem like that to you?
I definitely want to stick to the agenda, Tanner. If we can get a proper like Earth Day debrief after this, I would love that too. But I also want to appreciate everyone's time.
Okay, fair enough. Then Nick, this is your agenda item. I'll toss it back to you.
And so, in that case, I would say I propose subtracting 2 of the bike valet events from this list and adding 2 tabling events and maybe 1 more underrepresented community group event. I think it sounds like there's still some back and forth in terms of like what co-hosting really means. So maybe we should talk more about that offline as to like how we would actually define co-hosting there. But I think, like I said, if we take out 2 bike valet events from here and replace them with 2 tabling events, then I think that would accomplish our goals. I'd like to add though that in the Earth Day, I think that it lends itself pretty seamlessly to do tabling as well as bike valet. It does take a little more attention, I think. I think 3 was a good number to have there, but also just keeping in mind that if we decide to do that format for future events, it kind of, or I'm gonna allude to specifically the Nice Festival. I'd spoken with Darius, who's organizing the Nice Festival. He says if we do just bike valet, we'd be considered volunteers. But if we also table and hand out swag or giveaways or documentation, we're then considered a vendor. And it's not that we couldn't do that. It's just that's just a whole other set of like agreements that need to be made. Just something to consider, not necessarily a deal breaker.
Okay.
Christine, your hand's up again.
Yeah, just quickly, I think what Nick, you might have been saying was there's a pretty hefty fee for the Nice Festival table.
I didn't get into those details with Darius, so I'm not too sure.
Yeah, I would go back to him and just ask, like, is it really are you really going to charge us several $100s just to like put out some literature at the table where we're bike valeting? That seems excessive to me. Eric, I'll take a quick comment from you, and then I think we need to move on to our next item.
Sure, I just want to jump on what everybody's saying. It is a hefty fee. That is correct. I actually inquired about it recently. But definitely set up the bike valet. You'll be able to kind of get your message across without having to, drop that vig. But I'm in full agreement with the Nice Festival. I think it goes seamlessly. There's already going to be a perfect situation. You got time to actually promote it effectively. So I don't know. I third it, I guess, is where we're at.
Thanks. Nick, any last questions or thoughts? Did you get the feedback that you were looking for?
Yeah, it sounds to me like probably need to do some discussion offline. Like I said, I think I'd like to take off 2 of the bike valet events and see if there's any more opportunity for tabling. So I think I'll probably just revive the email chain to reflect what some of these changes that we discussed just now look like.
One last comment I just want to quickly note, and I'm sure you're aware, is like the scale of some of these events will be like, immensely different than what we had at Earth Day, like Oyster Festival specifically. So, it's a lot more people, which could mean a lot more bikes, and we may need more volunteers. So just keeping that in mind too.
Yeah, I think the Nice Festival will probably be a good happy medium, bigger than Earth Day, but not as big as Oyster Festival to prepare. Eric, I'm gonna go ahead and move on to the next agenda item just in the interest of time. We're a couple minutes behind. But love to get your comments on future stuff if there's time. Next thing is click and request from Kyle. Go ahead, Kyle.
All right, Tanner, give me 1 second. Just gotta share my screen. Cool. All right, let me know you can see it.
Yes.
All right, cool. So City Click and Request is our customer service, our online customer service system, as well as there's an app. So Jim, if you're still on, this is what I was talking about earlier. So you can always call City Hall and be like, hey, and that'll get a ticket inserted as well. But this is just an automatic way for you guys to use. I know Tanner has used it in the past. We recently updated it, which is why I'm showing it to you guys again. It's been fully updated for most departments in the city, but specifically transportation, mobility, and parking. We made sure we were the first on the list to get fully updated. So if you do City of Norwalk, click and request. You can also do City of Norwalk customer service. That'll take you to the same website here, and then you just click this little button down here that says click and request, and then you get this Visit Norwalk, this nice logo that we got. So if you go down here to requests and then create a new request, I'm logged in already, so you need to create a login to create this, but it will prompt you to create one if you haven't created one. And what you do is go number one, you select your request type. So I'll just show you guys all the different ones that we've done. So, you know, parking enforcement is under TMP. So we have some parking enforcement stuff. Some of that will get sent to LAS, other of it will get sent to TMP. It depends on the type of issue that's occurring, or to NPD, depending on the type of issue that's going on. Roads and sidewalks. Under here in sidewalks, if you do sidewalks and then if you're requesting a new sidewalk, it'll go to TMP. If you're requesting a repair to a current existing sidewalk, it'll get sent to DPW. And then lastly, the main stuff is traffic and sightlines. So repair traffic signals, that'll get sent to Fred and our signals team. Repair traffic signs and roadway markings, that'll get sent to us to review and then sent to DPW to repair. Request traffic signs and roadway markings. So again, pavement markings, roadway signs, anything that's type of request, we'll look into. Stop bars, shoulder lanes, stop signs, parking signs, etc. We'll look into that.
He's a city engineer. Okay.
I'm sorry, Jed?
Oh, nothing. Sorry.
Nope, no problem. And then we have a request for traffic calming. So if this is more so for speeding, crash, safety concerns, anything like that, that's going to be traffic calming. And then sightline obstructions, if you feel there's a visibility concern for all modes of transportation, whether that's at corners or along the roadway with vegetation, walls, buildings, etc. So you click, let's do a sightline obstruction. You click where it is, ignore that it's showing where I live. Zooming back to Norwalk.
Wait, I thought all city employees lived in Norwalk.
Obviously, Tanner, obviously. So, let's say there's an issue at Colony Place and East Avenue. You click roughly where you think it is. And then you have to go back to request and then tell us more detail. Then you can describe so East Ave at Colony Place. If I could spell. And then brief description, whatever it is, and then done. And then you can add photos. If you would like the request to remain private, you can always do that, and then you submit. And then again, we just have disclaimers. If it's an emergency, Norwalk PD will contact you. There's also an email that'll get sent to you that's just like, hey, we'll look into this. Unfortunately, limited resources, but we'll definitely take a look into this and get back to you as soon as possible. If you feel like your request isn't moving forward fast enough, feel free to follow up, et cetera, et cetera. And I think Tanner has seen it, in the service, we can specifically ask the resident for more clarity and stuff. So I recommend not doing private because then we don't know who sent it in. So we can't, ask more questions because we don't know who the person that put it in. So with that, does anyone have any questions about this? And it is live as of right now, so you guys can use it right now. But Tanner.
Yeah, so I just pulled it up. Thanks for sharing that URL. At least implicitly, I've got it pulled up here on my laptop.
Great. I was going to ask if you could put it in the chat, so that'd be great.
Oh yeah, sure.
Thank you, Kyle. That was very informative, and I can find it easily. Norwalk's got a good website. And
Awesome.
Should I put that concern of mine in the sidewalks and walks area?
Yeah, I would put that in sidewalks. We don't have a trail section as of right now, but within our internal system, it would get separated into trails and fall under us.
Okay, will do. I'll even take a photo so it'll cement that, punctuate that whole need.
Perfect, Jim. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay, it looks like this Zoom call does not have chat or Q&A, so I can't share it here.
Okay.
Yeah, I've asked for it before. It's never happened.
We'll make sure to put it on walknorwalk.org for quick links
Yes,
if it's not already on there.
Yeah, I'll send it out to the commissioners. And I'll be sure and loop in Jim and Eric, both of you, since you're here as well, so you have that. But the mobile app also has the same updates, is that correct?
Yeah, the mobile app should be the same. I'm not working on that side of it. IT and Michelle, Diaz, who runs customer service, are working on that. So it might not be fully updated. It might just be like using it might be using the computer style online. I'm not 100% sure how that works, but I
Yeah,
do know
I
that
think the app is just an embedded web page. Like
right. I think it's an embedded web page, so it might not look correct, but it should, in theory, work. Everything was updated.
I use it, I use it and I just used it because I carry it, it's a wonderful thing and you take care of it pretty right away. So
Appreciate it, Christine.
I
I
just
have
tried
the
the
app
app and
on my
it's crashing.
phone. I have the app on my phone. Yeah. Thank you, Kyle.
You're welcome.
Kyle, I just tried the app on my phone and it's crashing when I try and create a request. So
Okay. I will I'll let IT know. I'm not 100% sure. I'm not, I
Well-
just say put these boxes in these boxes. I don't really touch
Yeah,
the whole-
so it just worked for me and it didn't crash for me. So
Great.
I uploaded one on the phone. Worked perfect.
We're a
Got
team of testers here.
Got it.
okay, so anyway, my actual questions are first to confirm that the big update is that there's a new set of categories, right?
Yes. So historically, if any of you were using it, we only had sight lines, signals, repair signal, and traffic sign, I think were the three off the top of my head. So now we have all of the many categories of things that we do in traffic, and then most of the other departments being public works, parks, and planning and zoning are in there as of right now. They're still working on a couple other departments, but again, most of it is in there. And then if you do have a miscellaneous, there is just you can always select a category that is roughly as close as possible. Every one of these is taken a look at by the customer service department to review if there is if the types are working, and if the boxes aren't working, then we'll make a new box to add into traffic or planning and zoning or whatever category it is. But this was designed in the sense from the consumer. So we didn't, group things by traffic or by by parks. Things were grouped by what, your average person would think to group them by, instead of going by like, oh, this is what we know traffic and traffic does, instead of, oh, this is what I think traffic does, if that makes sense. I'm sorry, Tanner, you had a question.
Yeah. Am I looking in the wrong place, or is there no specific category for crosswalks or curb ramps?
There should be a crosswalk category. I believe it was supposed to be under sidewalks. Or let me discuss with Michelle and I can get back to you guys on that. It might have been, if you wanted, it might have been just under sidewalk. It should be sidewalks and crosswalks, I think. So let me discuss with Michelle, but I'll get back to you on that.
Okay, because the single biggest category of requests that I get that I redirect people to click and request for is for crosswalks.
Understood. No, I think it's supposed to be sidewalks and crosswalks, but I will discuss and get back to you. That might have just been something we discussed a couple weeks ago and didn't finish up, but I'm not 100% sure why it's not there.
Okay, yeah, if you could make a note of that, that's great. My other question, and this may be beyond your ken, it might be for IT, but as you mentioned, I've used this a lot, and there's evidence for that in this messages. I have a bunch of historical messages, but when I go to requests and I say my requests, it's empty. I can't see my past requests.
That's a good question. I'm not entirely sure, and I don't want to speculate because honestly, this is not my system, so I don't know enough about it to know the back end. So
But
sorry, Tim.
that's
But
something
I can discuss that with IT tomorrow and see if I can get an answer for you.
Gotcha.
Tanner, mine's the same way. All my past requests are not showing up, so
Gotcha.
it's not a big deal, but
Understood.
Yeah.
No, John,
It would be nice to
Tanner,
see
I
them.
appreciate that.
Awesome. Yeah, if you could pass that on to IT, feel free to have them reach out to me if they want an example. But my third and last question actually is made a little bit more challenging because I can't see my past requests, and that is that typically my experience, and I've experienced that I've heard from other people, is when they use click and request, they don't ever get like an actual response. Sometimes they get an automated response immediately. That happens a lot with me. It's like, thank you for submitting your thing. We'll review it. But then nothing else ever happens. And so people get this impression that these tickets go nowhere.
So what I can tell you is that for our tickets, at least from a traffic department perspective, we have an automated response that's pretty detailed. We also, generally, you guys all know me, you all know Tanner, sorry, not Tanner, you all know Ben Young, and Nate Fankhandle. The three of us deal with customer service weekly basis. We review them all. We bring them to Jim and Garrett for final review. And then if we have a solution, we'll start moving that forward. If we don't, we'll close. If it's not something we can work on, we'll close it, or we'll move it to another department that can work on it. Unfortunately, we do have a number. I hate to say it. We have, hundreds of requests and only 3 guys that can look at it as, maybe 30% of our job combined at the end of the day. So there is requests that are going to take a while to get back. As you guys know, we have gotten the small concrete services money last year, which is helping us fulfill a lot of the requests that we're getting. And we are moving more forward than we were historically. And we're creating processes and have projects that are going to be moving more forward in the future. It just might be that they're not getting moved as fast as both I think you guys and us as department want to get them done. So we're just working on getting more resources to get them done. And I think historically there was if they put in clicking requests, they did get a little ignored, but the purpose going forward, at least from our department, is to get them to use clicking requests as a system to make it faster and easier for everyone in the future. So I apologize for any concerns in the past that haven't gotten moved forward, but we are definitely, working as hard as we can to move as many forward going forward. So
Yeah, I think that
way too many times, but
I think the new set of categories will help with that, because I think people will, now that they can see sidewalk as an option, it'll be more clear that that feedback is actually welcome for sidewalks.
Right,
So-
and that was the idea, because also, so we have the internal system didn't have these categories as well. So we had the same issue internally, that we didn't have enough categories describing what the concerns were. So
Yeah, well, then that's a good step forward. But I just want to underscore that if it's at all possible to have a human just write even just like a 1-sentence summary of here's how we resolve this, even if the resolution is we put this on the backlog and we don't know when we're going to get to it.
So Tanner, usually, I'm sorry, I didn't mention it. When Ben, Nate, and I meet with Jim and Garrett and we get a resolution, usually we do add that to the ticket. We've been doing that forward now. I think most of the tickets we have in the system right now are not click and request tickets, so they might not see that. But also it could be just not be going through. Again, I will talk with IT on those concerns, just because, again, from a TMP perspective, this is how we're trying to do things. It may just be that they're not getting sent for IT reasons, technical reasons. I'm not 100% sure, but I will.
Okay, well, my point is that even if it is technical reasons, I think it's worth addressing, because I think this has a big impact on people's perception of the app and people's willingness to use it again, right?
Tanner, I'm not disagreeing with you. I don't run the system, so I'm not 100% sure, but I will look into it.
Okay, cool. Any other questions or feedback about click and request? Alrighty. Thanks again, Kyle.
Of course,
In particular, thanks for the new categories. I'm excited about them.
of course.
All right. Next on the agenda is TMP updates. So I'll pass it back to Kyle.
Yeah. So Tanner, you gave me quite a list, so we'll go through these one by one. So the first one was the complete streets. So just an update on the demonstration project. We're trying to meet with the police this week about how we're going to staff it with the police. Our hope is to do it early June, probably the second Sunday, which is the 9th, but don't anchor me down on that just yet. We were working on a flyers, we're working on a flyer again, which we should have later this week. We want to get you guys involved. We want hands in the street. And we're, since this is going to be, we're going to have bollards and plastic ramps to put down in the street, some street painting and stuff like that. So we definitely want you guys to be a strong volunteer group there, and we hope to see all of you guys there. And then we're going to have a kiosk to gather more feedback on complete streets there. So again, that should help we're hoping to get more feedback as well. And then
Is the design nailed down for that? Is that finalized?
The design is mostly there. It's now just talking with the police just to make sure they have the staff to cover said design. So we just need to meet with them to finalize that. Once it's done, it'll be part of the flyer. So we will send that out, to you guys as well as other groups, so that we can start moving that forward.
Gotcha. Just one piece of feedback there.
Yeah, of
I appreciate the desire to have us involved in the implementation. I think that that will be useful and be useful for other people, outside of commission to be involved as well. But I feel like it's a little bit, what's the word I'm looking for? I think it would have been more effective if we could have been involved a little bit, even just, a smidgen in the design. I think we and other people too would feel more ownership in the project, in the implementation and the success of it if we had had a voice in the design of it. I know that months and months ago in the steering committee meeting, we tossed around a few ideas, but to me it didn't really feel like any of those ideas made it into the design. It feels like the design was just kind of like you guys worked with the consultant to come up with it, and then they were like, here it is. And it's, from what I remember, it's looking pretty good, and I think it'll be a successful project. It doesn't feel like we have much ownership over it.
Tanner, I honestly can't give you an answer on that just because I wasn't in the decision process for that. So I apologize if that's how you feel. I'll make sure that they know. I just wasn't part of the decision-making process. So
Yeah, no, that makes sense. It would be cool if you're in charge of TMP, but I know that you're not.
no worries. And then, oh, sorry, go ahead, Tanner.
Christine.
Oh,
Christine.
Tanner, I think, and Ben, and Kyle, sorry, this is in all respect. I appreciate Tanner's comment. I think it was an important one. And I wonder if we can still kind of leverage that, some participation before the event. We still have time. So maybe one of us can follow up with the office this week to request
Yeah,
that.
of course, of course. Again, we're looking with meeting with people right now. Still a little up in the air. Not that we aren't going to do it. We do want to get it done. So it's a little up in the air, but definitely I will bring these comments to Jim and Garrett. Again, I don't have the decision-making progress in this. I think the point of it was to get feedback from is it the SAC for the Complete Streets, I believe. I think
Yeah.
the point of it was to get some critique from the SAC, which was the point of inviting you, Tanner, as the representative of the Bike Walk Commission, you as the representative of the Bike Walk Commission at the SAC was to give that feedback, I think, on that last meeting where it was presented, is
Yeah,
my
and-
understanding, but I'm not 100% sure.
And to be clear, it was absolutely appreciated that we had representation on the SAC.
Great. And then just
Oh,
some
sorry,
last.
what's the SAC? Sorry, what's the
Sorry,
SAC?
the SAC is it's something the steering advisory committee for the Complete Streets implementation, Christine, for the ordinance and the design guide. So it has different departments in the city, so that the DPW, Parks and Rec, Norwalk Police, Norwalk Fire, departments that have, influence on the road, as well as TMP, the mayor's office, and then there's community stakeholders such as Norwalk Transit District, the Bike Walk Commission, and other related groups on it. And then some other updates on Complete Streets. So Garrett went before Economic and Community Development Committee last Thursday to present the Complete Streets ordinance. It's going to then go to the Ordinance Committee in May with a draft which they will review, and then they will adopt at some point over the summer once they have fully reviewed it. And then the design guide drafting is in process. We're about 60% of the way there. And then we hope to approve that with the Complete Streets ordinance at the same time. So again, at some point over the summer, probably looking towards the end of the summer. I don't want to give exact timelines though, just in case some things get moved. Complete Streets has been quite a big project, as I'm sure you guys are aware. But we're really happy where it is, and we're really happy it's moving forward. So anything else with Complete Streets before I move on to Wall Street?
When will either the commission or the public get to see the design guide? Will it not be public until it's adopted?
I'm not 100% sure on that, Tanner. I do think it's going to be presented at the next SAC in its current form to get feedback there. I don't know exactly what the plan is for the design guide, but I can get back to you on that.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, let's keep moving though.
Great.
Wall
So,
Street?
sorry?
Wall Street, right?
Wall Street, yes. So the next one is you had asked about the phase one construction timeline as well as the next public meeting. So those are both intertwined. August 5th is the day of groundbreaking for construction on phase one. So for those of you that don't know, phase one is going to be from Main Street to Brook Street. So that portion of East Wall Street over there will be the first phase that we're going to do. We plan on having our overall corridor meeting at around the same time, maybe a week or so after, to kind of keep all that momentum together. As you guys know, it's a $27 million project, very massive, lots of work to get done. Our goal is to kind of keep that momentum forward by having these two events roughly at the same time. And then we are working overall on project updates, which will be put on the website shortly, which should show a little more plans. But at that event in August-ish should be the release of the final plans with all your feedback and comments from the last couple of meetings. I know those were a while ago, but we still have all those comments, I promise. And then also Yankee Doodle Garage will start work in the next 2 weeks. That'll be all the maintenance work. So they'll be cutting the concrete, fixing all the water issues. So anything for maintenance. And then once that work is underway, we'll be able to get an idea of when the aesthetics work should be able to start and then complete. Again, so most of that should be done towards the end of the summer, late fall is my assumption. Judd.
Thanks, Kyle. At the Yankee Doodle, I'm aware of that because of my position on the parking authority. Are they going to be cutting the ribs sooner?
Yeah.
Or is that come later? Do you know?
So the ribs will be part of the maintenance, which will be in the next 2 weeks, starting the next 2 weeks. I don't know when exactly they'll cut the ribs, but that'll be part of that first work to be done.
Okay, that would be great. Thanks.
Yeah, of course. Any more questions? With that,
All right.
I'll move on to bike racks. Unless Tanner, you had something.
Bike racks.
Cool. So we've installed a number of bike racks as part of our initiative across the city, but also we've been working closely with the schools to replace, but also install new bike racks specifically at the schools. I've been leading that. A couple months ago, we replaced the bike rack that was at Tracy's school. The one that was there was kind of decrepit and old, so we replaced that with 6 hoop racks, so it can now fit 12 bikes. We did a little custom design on one of the hoops as well as the Bike Norwalk design. So the custom design is the school's logo. So we did that there, and then we did that striped in white and blue. So if you guys go past Tracy School, you'll see that. Wolf Pit, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, Amy and I installed another hoop rack, a new hoop rack there. They don't have any bike racks based on a customer service request. That one is just 3 hoops, and one has the little wolf logo because they're the art school, so they have this interesting little wolf logo. And then also we just got on Friday a custom wolf design with the wolf howling, which we're going to install at which me and Amy plan to maybe install tomorrow, but probably next week at Wolf Pit School as well. So that'll be interesting. We're working on bike racks at Fox Run Elementary School. Not sure the designs yet. It'll be similar hoop rack style with their logo. We're also looking at doing a Fox custom rack as well there. And then Main Street lot, I know you guys have been asking about a lot. There'll be 4 hoop racks, which are going to get installed tomorrow. They would have been installed earlier last week, but there were some complications with the site location. Those will go. There's a concrete pad right at the corner of Main Street and the lot. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
Right at the corner where the Flying Scotsman is, if you guys know where that is, there's a concrete pad at the corner of the Main Street lot that those racks should be installed tomorrow morning, assuming no crazy act of God. So yeah, right there, Tanner.
Yeah, I rode by today hoping to see them installed.
Yes. So unfortunately, we just a hiccup with where we were placing them. We just wanted to confirm before we installed them, but should be done tomorrow morning by the parking authority. And then we have 12 hoop racks that we can install throughout the city that were part of the Bike Norwalk that you guys had requested. So we're working on cutting down that list that you had sent us a while ago, Tanner. With those racks, our plan for right now is to install 8 racks. 8 of the 12 and keep 4 in reserve. And then as we go forward, we'll keep ordering sets of 8 to then always have 4 in reserve just in case. And so those we'll use to fill out those locations you had sent us a little while ago. So any questions on those?
Yeah. Do you know what you're going to prioritize with those first 8?
I don't have the list, and I think Troy and Greg are the ones running that, so I'm not 100% sure off the top of my head. But I believe the ones at Veterans Park were definitely at the top of the list, and I think there were a couple other places, but I can't remember.
You're talking about the list that we created, right? That we sent
I
you?
believe, yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, the most of the stuff in the top tier, we categorized it into high priority, medium, and low. And most of the stuff in the high priority is urban core in front of businesses. So
Okay.
Washington Street and Wall Street mostly. But given that Wall Street's about to be rebuilt, I imagine that Washington
Right.
Street would be
I
the
do know, Tanner, that I think we planned on doing 2 individual ones on Washington Street. So I think Washington Street will get those. Wall Street, we definitely are going to stay away from installing stuff there. Let the
Makes sense.
project complete before, and then we can do it as part of, we don't even need to use these racks. We can order racks as part of the project. When the project is as big as it is, to order a couple bike racks is
Yeah, totally.
not a problem to ask to be installed as part of that work. So we'll
Yeah.
do bike racks there as part of that. So
My
that's-
point is that with these 8, I hope that Washington Street makes the list because
Yes, yes,
that's-
yes, you reminded me it is on the top of the priority. For sure.
Great. Awesome. I'm glad to hear that. I saw the Instagram post about Wolf Pit Elementary, and while I was glad to see bike racks on Instagram, I was a little discouraged because we've been asking for, our top priority for a long time. And I'm also glad to hear that there was a click-in request for Wolf Pit School, but my first reaction was Wolf Pit Avenue is not very safe for a kid to bike on.
Right. So the streets behind Wolf Pit are fairly suburban, and they have connections straight into those streets. So a lot of kids, including the principal and the mother of the kid who requested, they ride their bikes through those side streets. So that
Awesome.
was what they were talking about. Definitely, Wolf Pit is where Nate is actually looking into doing a school zone and updating the signage along Wolf Pit for this summer. So we're definitely going to do work there. We definitely agree that Wolf Pit is not a super great street to ride a bike along. But right now we're focused because there is a lot of kids that ride their bikes and walk through the neighborhood streets that are behind it.
Great. I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah. And then Tanner, for the reason the projects are going in different ones, I'm the one doing all the school bike racks, and Greg and Troy are doing the miscellaneous bike racks throughout the city. So it's just 2 different project managers, and not that I have less work, but I have different work than Greg and Troy do, so I can focus on these a little more than they can sometimes. But we're working on all of them. There's no reason, these got in faster or slower. Just, again, lots of work all around the city that we're trying to juggle. So,
Gotcha. Okay.
so
Other questions about bike racks? Going once? Okay, Kyle?
So next is the Hospital Hill Safety Enhancement Project. That's Stewart's and Stevens intersection where Blue Cactus is. So we're continuing to develop the plans. I believe last time I checked in, we were at 30% going towards 60%. We've coordinated with Eversource Gas to advance their underground utility work. And that work was supposed to commence today. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to drive out there, so I don't know if it actually started or not, but Eversource is usually pretty good about when they give us a date, starting at that date. And then our hope is to have construction begin in fall of 2024. So any questions on that project?
Can you comment on how much the design has changed to incorporate feedback from the public input session?
Unfortunately, Tanner, I cannot, just because I'm not part of the design talks for that one. I've been focused on some other projects lately, so apologies.
Okay.
But I can ask Greg to follow up at the next meeting on that. So.
Yeah, that would be great. In particular, there were a lot of people in this commission and otherwise, other advocates for biking and walking that were hoping to see more progress made with the project. Obviously, we all recognize that the design as proposed was a big improvement over what we have now, but we thought that there was more potential that wasn't realized by that plan. So I'm hoping, and I think a lot of us are hoping that that feedback was heard and incorporated.
I think it was. I think it's just and I'm assuming, Tanner, you're talking about the comments about less parking and more bike infrastructure or sidewalk infrastructure or whatever would be my assumption. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, I mean, we're not the professionals, right? So we don't understand
Right.
exactly how to make these trade-offs, but I think in particular it was if I had to pick one thing, it would be the lack of sidewalk space and public plaza space that could be there and isn't.
So I think we definitely are cognizant of that. I think the issue remains that we are still a city that is developed for the car right now. And we still need to be cognizant of that as we develop more projects across the city. We are slowly making it a more walkable and cyclable city so that we can, build future projects that are more focused on cycling and as we adopt complete streets, we can build more complete streets that are more focused on pedestrian and cyclist infrastructure. Just right now, we can't be fully focused on that. We do need to still build for, not that we don't want to build for the car. The car is a perfectly valid method of transportation, but we can't get rid of it. And we do need in some of these projects still, while we're still very car dependent city, we need to be cognizant of building that parking in some locations. So I think that's the reasoning for it. But again, I do think the plans took a little more and we're going to maximize green space and sidewalks as much as possible.
Okay.
Yep.
Hope so.
Great. Next is the transportation master plan. So on that one, we are hoping to get official adoption over the summer. We asked P&Z if we could get on for May, but May is looking full. So we're trying to do at some point over the summer so that we can adopt it. And then that'll be a good pre-adoption before we adopt complete streets. So any questions on that?
Was there anything up until now holding that up, or was it just the low priority?
No, it was not that it was low priority. It was just that we had lots of construction projects that we've been working on, such as Wall Street, such as Hospital Hill, Highland Avenue back when we finished that. So it was just we had projects that we needed to get done. And so it just became it was a little low priority, but it was just, we just a plan that we need to move forward. We had it, we were using its ideals in all the projects we were using. We've been, George Avenue, Linden Street, Calf Pasture Beach are all projects within that we had in our budget request for last year. If you remember when Jim was here to present that to you guys, it was just, we had other, construction projects at the end of the day are the most valuable thing. So we were just focused on those, I think, and that's why it kind of dropped, as well as just lack of staff and stuff up until the last year. So.
Yeah, the reason that I put that on there is because last time that I brought up pedestrian and bicycle master plans,
yeah,
the response I got from TMP was we got to do the transportation master plan first, and then the bike ped plans kind of follow from that. That was another thing that I requested for the agenda that didn't make it on, was a discussion of the bike ped master plans. So unless we end up with time, I'll punt that to the next meeting. But the quick summary for those who aren't aware is that the city adopted a bicycle and ped master plan in 2012, and we haven't had a comprehensive update since then. But two of the official responsibilities of the Bike Walk Commission are to keep the bike ped master plan, the bicycle plan and the pedestrian plan updated. So I'm trying to get serious about that.
We good to move on to the next one, Tanner? Or Judd, your hand is raised. I don't know if you have a question. All right, cool. So the next request, Tanner, from you was the NRVT north of Broad Street. So Ben is working actively on this. We have funding for design secured through RAISE. There are some issues, though. The previous feasibility study had the preferred route going adjacent to US 7 between Broad and Perry, and then as a shared lane on Perry underneath the Merritt. TMP does not think that it is looking into an alternative routing that don't parallel the highway and don't utilize a shared road segment, especially under the Perry Avenue Bridge. We think that would be, not amazing for cyclists especially on a separated path.
Yeah, I would agree. I think we would all agree.
Right. So the consultant is working on a feasibility study, which may or may not cross under US 7 at the Deering Pond and then cross the Merritt between US 7 and Main Avenue. So.
Oh, interesting. On the east side of 7.
Yeah. So so we'd have to go under 7 at Deering Pond. We have to do a feasibility study to see if that would be possible to get a boardwalk-like thing under the bridge. I can't comment whether we could do that or not. Just again, we need that feasibility study. So
sure. And then is the idea to wait until the interchange construction to get a new underpass under the Merritt, or to share the one with the railroad?
So I'm not 100% sure. I think that's the point of this feasibility study, to see if we go under Deering Pond, if that's feasible, which is the best feasible option to go under the Merritt. I'm sure we will, if the railroad is viable, we'll use that one. If it's not, we'll have to look into requesting as part of the Merritt or a different routing. I know there's a couple different ways you can go through Route 7 and Route 15 there, but just not 100% sure.
Yeah, no, I've had conversations with the NRVT people about this, and there's not an obvious good option.
Right, right.
Last question for me: is there any chance that that this next stage gets chunked up, and the connection with Perry Avenue gets made before, or at, you know, as a separate chunk of project before the one dealing with the merit? Because the merit's like a whole hornet's nest, right? They're dealing with the state, but it could be that you know, just connecting up into Perry Avenue could be easier and a quicker win in the meantime.
So if we want to go under Route 7, we have to deal with the state. And
True.
so I don't know what the timeline is. It's going to be an issue, not an issue, but it's going to be a lot of hard work either way. And if we go under 7, which I think would be better long term for the feasibility, if it's feasible, I think it would be better routing long term. It's just we still have to deal with the state no matter which direction we go. So it's just, you know, up in the air kind of right now. But again, that's the whole point. We do have funding, which is the good news. We just we're going to use this funding to find out the feasibility of the correct routing. So
Yeah. Okay, cool. Thanks for the update.
Yep. And then the other NRVT portion between New Canaan Avenue and Broad Street, although the section is technically complete, we'd like to improve the alignment and the aesthetics of the section. Ben is considering a separate trail crossing of the Norwalk River from the corner of New Canaan / Riverside over to the east side of the river, so you don't kind of have to jog up and then over to get to where the entrance is by the utility area. I don't know what junction box area. And then we're also initiating conversations with Eversource on a preliminary easement agreement for the trail. There's just a handshake agreement. We'd like to have an actual agreement that says, hey, we can use this as a public right of way. So
Gotcha. Those all sound like cool ideas. I mean, the biggest concern I have with that section of trail is just that it needs repavement. I don't
yeah,
think
exactly. And
it's
that would be part of this project. There's a
Good.
lot of new grants that have come out from the federal government that are specifically relating to sidewalk and trail infrastructure. So we're seeing if we can try to grab one of those.
Nice. Cool. Good news. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And then any other questions on that? Or I'll move to the last topic.
Is that not the last topic?
No, you had asked about the East Avenue corridor study so on the other day. So I added that as well.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
So it's same as what I emailed you, Tanner, but just so everyone can see it. Unfortunately, we didn't get the funding approved, as I think some of you are aware, but if not, the budget was cut by 40% this year. So we had to cut quite a few projects, not just the East Avenue corridor. That was our, one of our top projects. So unfortunately, we're going to put it in the next cycle. We're going to put it as an item of high priority. All we can ask is if you guys, support the projects you guys want by asking your council members and going to council meetings and talking about them. In the meantime, we are doing signal improvements at Eversley at East Avenue, which will include new crosswalks and ADA compliant ramps at that intersection, which is again a small portion of East Avenue, but should help with pedestrian crossings and sidewalk connections there.
Yeah, I think that alone will make a huge difference.
Great.
That's great.
At Eversley, you said?
Yeah, right by City Hall, right at Eversley and East Avenue. Tanner.
Is that the one on the south side of City Hall? I can't get to it.
Yes.
Cool. Yeah, that'll be great. I
So
will use it. In fact, when I go to City Hall, I'll use that.
great. So that's it for me, unless there's anything else questions-wise from you guys.
Kyle, I have a question.
Yeah, of course.
I noticed on West Avenue, where the rapid flashing beacon is at Grace Baptist, there's a new poured concrete, looks like a base for a signalized.
Yep.
Are you planning to put a
So as
signalized crosswalk?
the same phasing of signals we're working on, which I think is 3, but don't quote me on that. It might be 4. So Eversley at East Avenue is part of that project, and then right where you're talking about Grace Baptist at West Avenue, as well as I think Pine Street / Garner at West Avenue are part of that project.
A new crosswalk at Pine?
Yeah, so new crosswalks and signals. So we're going to be upgrading all the signal infrastructure and crosswalks there. Don't quote me on that, but that should be part of that project. Yes.
That's great. And then at Grace Baptist, that rapid flashing beacon would go away and a regular stoplight would go in?
I don't know about that one. I'd have to look at the plans and get back to you on that.
Okay. All right. Well, Pine Street's great. Thanks.
Yep, there we go.
All right, Kyle, thank you for the detailed updates from TMP. Appreciate all of the answers to our questions. Any last questions for Kyle before we move on from TMP items? Alrighty, I'm going to turn it to Emily. Our next agenda item is updates from the educational subcommittee, and unfortunately, I'm bummed that Manny isn't here because I know that he's been hard at work on some of these things, but I hope that you'll be able to update us on his work.
I hope so too. Yeah, I have just a few small updates. It shouldn't take 15 minutes. And I know, yeah, Manny and I have been working on 2 different videos. I know we haven't sent out one yet this quarter, but the one that he was working on that was nearly completed was for those green bike lanes. And I believe right now they're under construction. So we're waiting for those to go back up to be able to publish that video. But the other video that he started was for the bike valet program. So we sent out a teaser in preparation for Earth Day, but we're working on that for our second quarter video to have, a bike valet breakdown on how it works, how this ticketing system that Nick gave details on is put together. So we're working on getting that in a video format to post online in English and Spanish. The other thing that I was working on was the newsletter that hasn't gone out yet, and that is a little contingent on some of our events that are coming up. So I wanted to talk about Bike to Work month, or I'm sorry, Bike Month and Bike to Work Week. That's in the next agenda item. But to wrap up the other educational initiatives, Jalea and I are also working on content for social media posts. And there's an opportunity for us to collaborate with CT Rides to do more. They have a program running right now, which is their Drive Less campaign. And that's encouraging people to use their app to travel around Connecticut. And it provides them directions using, walking guides or biking guides, bus guides. It's like an all-in-one app, which is very cool. So we're looking to do an educational collaborative with them and Sarah Roy. Shout out to her. Other than that, I don't think, unless Christine, you have anything to add.
Did we lose Christine?
Oh, we might have lost Christine.
Yeah, I think we did.
Okay. Or Nick,
Yes,
I don't know if you have
yeah, it's another
anything.
meeting at this time.
Okay.
Now's a good time maybe to double check with Kyle. Kyle, do you know anything about the timeline for getting those green bike lanes repainted post-construction?
No, that's a state project. So the state should be doing it, should be repainting it as part of their, as part of that project. I just don't know the timeline of the work on there. We are gonna make them redo it because they were supposed to be done with the work that they were doing. And that's why they had to come back in. We painted it because we assumed they were done with not assumed, they had said they were done with the work they were doing, and they had to come back. So the state will have to repaint it as part of that project. We will be on top of them about that, but unfortunately, I don't know when that project will be done.
Yeah, obviously we're at the whim of the state, but yeah, thank you. I look forward to, I appreciate you guys staying on top of that and hope that you'll continue to keep them accountable, make sure that those don't just languish.
No, of course, we spent good money on that, and we want to build more, and we didn't want the first one to get ripped up only a couple months after it got installed. But we'll definitely follow up with the state about their timeline on that project. But again, working with the state is, if you think working with us is unclear sometimes, try working with Condot.
Yeah, in particular though, I want to point out here that a request for educational materials around these green bike lanes was one of the clearest things that we've gotten from TMP in the last few months. And Manny has done a lot of great work making this video, and it's frustrating that now that the video is finally ready, after lots of requests from TMP, that it's the bike lanes are gone.
No, I understand the frustration. We are almost done with reviewing the video. We're trying to make a what would be the correct word? A committee of City Hall employees that are not in infrastructure related departments to watch it and review it. So we have kind of a layman's perspective on it.
Oh,
to see if
cool.
they understand. And that's kind of what's holding it up. We're just trying to find the right people to do that, we were thinking we could use customer service, but then we realized they kind of know stuff about infrastructure because they talk about with it. So we're just trying to find the right people to review it with everyone so they can be like, oh, this makes sense, this doesn't make sense. But overall, I think, you know, I want to thank Manny for doing and Emily for doing the work on that. I think overall the script is pretty good. There's just a few minor edits we wanted to say for that. And then for the most part, it's just making sure that a layman bike-wise can understand the presentation, which I think is good. But as a person who does ride their bike regularly and works in transportation infrastructure, I may be completely wrong. So I just need to have that feedback.
Cool. Well, thanks, Kyle. Emily, do you want to move on to your other topic about Bike Month activities?
Yes, and it kind of ties into the newsletter. So I spoke with Sarah Roy about the opportunity. I know last year we did tabling events, and oh, Christine's not here. I spoke with Christine about, you know, opportunities to do a similar thing this year and how we could maybe partner with another organization to help spread the responsibility out a little bit, because I know we're all, you know, working full time, and these are the tabling event for reference that we did last year. We set up tables around the city of Norwalk, a different location each day during Bike to Work week. One day was at City Hall, one day was at the train station, so on and so forth, between 7 and 9 a.m. And we would hand out coffee and encourage people to ride their bikes to work, or however they can, without, you know, or to encourage more people using bikes during Bike Month. So this year we were hoping to do a similar thing, collaborating with CT Rides, to encourage people, again, to not drive their car, but to bike or walk or take public transit during Bike to Work week. And what that might look like. And I'm definitely looking for feedback from other commissioners. And again, this would involve potentially getting volunteers. But if we had something similar for Bike to Work week this month, this year, which starts next week, Monday, May 13th through Friday, May 17th. And Friday, May 17th is Bike to Work Day. I think it's a national holiday.
Yep.
Or no, yes. So I definitely want to, I guess, hear from you all, your thoughts on trying to manage this next week, or if it's even something that would be possible.
Yeah, I've got thoughts. Obviously the biggest issue is the short timeline. I think we do have an advantage. One of our strengths is that we did this last year, and I think we learned pretty much how it works and what's required. So I think that we could pull this off. One of the most frustrating things about the Bike Walk Commission is that, you know, official business has to go through these meetings that are once a month, and if we want to do extra meetings, we got to get you know, city employees to work overtime to come here. So I think from an organizational point of view, I would propose, and this is kind of what has already happened in the past and happens with a lot of Bike Walk events. But because a lot of us are involved with Sustainable Streets as well, which for those of you who are new is an independent grassroots group, Nick and Emily and I are involved with, that works on a lot of the same stuff, but is independent of the city government. Basically, from an official point of view, leveraging Sustainable Streets for the actual like implementation of the event. That way we can be a lot more flexible, and we can tap into the volunteer network that Sustainable Streets has, which I think is a strength of Sustainable Streets. I think that would help us to, you know, if we can just lean into that a little bit more, that would help us to get this together quicker instead of.
Tanner, can I just mention something right there?
Sure.
Just for Sustainable Streets, you know, I think it's a good thing what you guys are doing. Just be careful with meetings. You know, if more people from you, Tanner, and then you, Emily, and Nick are already almost a quorum. So if you have a quorum, it becomes an official bike walk.
Yep. No, I'm intimately aware of this. There's a lot of good commissioners that we could put on if not for that rule.
Great.
So anyway, yeah, I would say that you know, as far as like what the commission needs to provide to make this a success, we have that tablecloth that's funded by the commission, that I think is at my house. I'm pretty sure. And I don't think we have anything left in the budget for this year. So it's not like we can provide, you know, other stuff. So I'd say that we more or less officially delegate the actual execution of this to Sustainable Streets, and have the Bike Walk Commission essentially act as the liaison with the city government. For example, Michelle emailed me the other day asking if we wanted to put out some promotion in advance of Bike to Work Week, and I think working with her, under the auspices of the commission makes sense. But to actually like organize the volunteers and put the tables up, it would be nice to tap into the larger volunteer network that Sustainable Streets is. Which again is very similar to what has been done in the past. I just kind of want to be above board about it. Any thoughts?
Do you see this realistically being turned around in what essentially amounts to less than a week, considering it'd be Monday morning of next week?
I certainly think that we could do at least one day, maybe just the Friday. I don't know that we'll be able to get all the days together, but it'll depend on how much volunteer resources we end up finding. But Emily, if you need a break after Earth Day, I'm happy to spearhead this and take on the responsibility for finding volunteers and deciding on days and communicating with Michelle at the city.
Well, okay, so I was on that email with Michelle as well, and I definitely am excited to promote this through the Bike Walk Commission. I like your idea of maybe committing to one day, like Friday the 17th, Bike to Work Day. This is something I would really like to do in collaboration with CT Rides as Norwalk
totally.
Bike Walk. So
Yeah,
I don't
no,
I don't want to hand
was
this off
chatting
to
with
you,
Sarah.
but yeah.
I was chatting with Sarah Earth Day, and I told her that we would welcome her participation. She said, I think that she has a conflict on Thursday, but maybe every other day she's available. But basically, what she can provide is a table and literature from her end, but none of the literature is bike specific. But it's a
It
physical
involves biking though. Yeah, the app
yeah.
does give bike routes, yeah, through Norwalk. So it's not that it's exclusive of that, it's inclusive of other means of transportation as well. So I do appreciate that kind of combination with our focus on biking.
Yeah, so I think we're agreed. Whatever tables we do, we should involve Sarah, and I'll make sure that we do.
All right. Yeah, we met a few weeks ago about this, so I know she's on board. I just don't know when she is available, and she did mention that she may have colleagues that can help as well. So if you're okay with it, I'd like to suggest that we commit to maybe doing something on Friday, May 17th, and then promoting it through Bike Walk. But if you want to separately initiate through Sustainable Streets, I want to delegate that to you.
Yeah, how about this? Let's commit to do at least Friday.
Okay.
If we end up getting stuff together quickly, I think we might as well promote it through the channels available to Bike Walk as well. But for now, we can agree to promote it at least Friday.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
And
for those of you who, I realize I skipped over a couple details. Last year, what we did is we set up tables at different places around town every morning during that week. Sorry, Emily, go ahead.
No, I already gave her. I thought I talked
my bad.
about it before. Yeah.
My bad.
I think that's it for me on the in terms of the newsletter and bike month. That was about it.
Tanner, I wasn't involved last year, but when you did it, did you engage with only cyclists or pedestrians also, or
I mean, we talked to anybody who walked up to the table. We had T-shirts that we tried to reserve for only cyclists. I think we did end up giving a few out to non-cyclists because they were really excited about it. But we kept a sign-in sheet, and we tried to keep track of which people were cyclists and which weren't. I think the majority were.
Mhm.
This exception was the one day we tabled at the South Norwalk train station. We got a ton of people who weren't cyclists because they were coming off the train.
Well,
Right.
that and the Wheels Hub. We were outside the Wheels Hub one day, and those were mostly pedestrians and
Yes.
people taking the bus. So we also offered the first person to show up on a bike got a coupon for a tune-up. So that was provided by Smart Cycles, I believe.
I forgot about that. That was a good one. Okay, then I'll take the action item to organize the Friday volunteers and also quickly nail down if we're going to do any other days.
Thank you, Tanner.
Okay, that leaves us with 8 minutes, which is unprecedented.
I just gotta take over from Greg. It's that simple.
Um, Kyle, I do appreciate the amount of detail that you're able to pack in. That does not go unnoticed. Yeah, because we have a couple of extra minutes, and I alluded to it earlier. Nick, do you want to give any more details about how Earth Day went with the bike valet, or do you feel like we already addressed that sufficiently?
None come to mind in the moment. Although, I never got around to actually asking if any commissioners own a truck that can carry around 8-foot pipes. I know Emily doesn't. I know Tanner doesn't. Judd, do you happen to have a truck that can carry 8-foot pipes?
Yeah, how many?
4 of them?
Oh, yeah, even my Honda Pilot on the roof. But is that for the bike stands or?
Right, the bike valet racks.
Okay. And when do you need this?
If you could do within the week, that would be great.
And
Where are
from
they
where?
currently stored?
They are still at the St. Paul's Church.
Oh,
By the green. And where do they go?
They end up at the Yankee Doodle Garage.
Oh,
Last time we coordinated picking up with Greg from City Hall.
okay.
So if that's something that is easier for you, I can start an email chain with you, myself, and Greg. And
Nick, Greg is out, which is why I'm here this
Oh,
week.
that's
So
right.
just put
I-
me on. Yeah.
Okay.
Hi.
We are gonna need like at least 24 hours notice though, if not 72 if you can get us just when you have an idea of when you can move them. Just because not a big deal for us to run down and open the Yankee Doodle, but just so that we know so we can get someone there with our schedules and stuff. Thanks.
Kyle, we maybe coordinate with Brian Lutz or
Yeah.
Siroc.
Yeah.
I could coordinate with them. So
Yeah, no problem, Judd. Just if we're gonna move it, CC me and Brian and Sirach, and we'll figure it out. So
okay.
if
All right,
it's I think it might be worth exploring just keeping these at a commissioner's house during event season, right? I think all of our events are kind of concentrated into a 4 to 6 month window. During the winter, I think it totally makes sense to store them at a city location, but it might just be straight up easier to store them at a commissioner's house. And I'm happy to stick them. I've got a corner of my basement I can stick them in.
Are they plastic?
They're metal.
No, they're metal.
Okay.
Tanner, I can't give you an answer. I just don't know if that's gonna be kosher or not. So I just need to. I can't give you an answer right now. I'd have to look into that and ask. Just because.
Okay, to be clear, I'm not asking for your official blessing. This is essentially what we do with like the tablecloth, for example. The tablecloth has lived in my house for several months.
I understand. I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm saying though that it is technically city property and to have it at a private residence is not a great look. And I understand a tablecloth, you've been doing it at the tablecloth, and I get it, it's a bike rack. I'm not saying it's, something we can't do or can do. I'm just telling you it's a little unkosher. And
I get that it's unkosher. And if this was like something that was higher value, I would agree that it should be treated with more process. But I think it's in our best interest. Like if we're going to get the actual value out of it that we use city money to pay for, I think being able to use it as easily as possible is in the public's best interest.
Okay. On that note too, I just want to say if keeping it at a person's home and that person goes away, like that kind of defeats the purpose too. Like if there's logistics that come into that, but I mean, ease of access is definitely the priority for me too.
No, I understand, Emily. I agree, and I understand, and I concur with you guys, and I have generally I'm not this rulesy. It's just that it's technically public property, and for it to be at a private property is a no good. That even with it being what you guys paid $500 for that, right? Like it's not that.
It's
yeah.
It's
So I
significant, though.
100% get it. It's just let me just talk with Jim and get back to you guys just because I think it's just one of those things that we probably can't say okay to, but we can, the events you guys have are all very well documented when they're going to happen. We know what weekends they're going to happen. If you guys give us, if you tell us Wednesday, we need them on Friday, we can definitely get a person down there like Sirach or me or KB or Brian to open up the door and get you guys in and out really quick. So I appreciate the ease of access concern, but I'm also concerned from just a public representation issue.
Sure. Okay, then maybe we should try and store them in city locations until it becomes like a major pain point. But so far, it seems like it's not a major pain point.
Agreed.
So Nick, back to you.
I think we're just gonna, like I said before, start the email chain with Kyle, Judd, and myself, and we'll figure out the timing from there.
Okay,
Great.
sounds good.
The next one that we're shooting for is the Nice Festival, right?
Right.
Cool. And that is, oh, that's in July. I thought it was in June. Okay, so oh no. Pride is June 8th. So that would be the nearest one if we're able to do it. But I guess maybe you were gonna prune that one. I'll leave that to you. We can talk about that later. The last thing on the agenda is to approve the minutes. I did read the minutes and because I wasn't at the meeting, and I didn't find any issues. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from April's meeting. Emily so moves. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Great. All in favor? Great. That's 4 out of 4. Thank you everybody for attending. I'll now entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
Emily moves to adjourn.
Second.
Judd seconds. All in favor? Thanks everybody for attending. Thanks Jim for attending for your first time, and everyone else who's been on the call. We'll see you next month.
Very
Thanks,
informative.
Kyle.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Thanks,
Thank
Tanner.
you.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Eileen.
Thank you all.